Child labor, a cruel relic of bygone days, is rearing its ugly head once more. Across the globe, millions of children are trapped in exploitative and dangerous working conditions. Instead of experiencing the joys of childhood, they endure long hours, meager wages, and the denial of their fundamental human rights. From sweatshops in Southeast Asia to mines in Africa, the faces of child laborers reflect a world that has failed to protect its most vulnerable members. This is a stain on our collective conscience, a stark reminder of the inequality and injustice that continue to plague our world. The International Labor Organization estimates that over 160 million children are engaged in child labor, with nearly half involved in hazardous work. These children are robbed of their education, their health, and their future. They are forced to sacrifice their childhoods to contribute to family incomes or to line the pockets of unscrupulous employers. The consequences are devastating, perpetuating cycles of poverty, illiteracy, and exploitation. Child labor is not merely a labor issue, it is a human rights crisis that demands our urgent attention. The United States, a nation built on principles of freedom and opportunity, is witnessing a disturbing resurgence of child labor within its own borders. Recent investigations have uncovered shocking cases of children, some as young as 12, working in hazardous conditions in meatpacking plants, factories, and farms across the country. These children, many of whom are migrants or from marginalized communities, are often lured by the promise of work and a better life, only to find themselves trapped in exploitative situations. The rollback of child labor laws in 10 U.S. states, fueled by a toxic combination of corporate greed and political expediency, has created a legal loophole that unscrupulous employers are all too eager to exploit. These rollbacks, often framed as deregulation or efforts to address labor shortages, weaken protections for children and make it easier for businesses to prioritize profits over people. The consequences are dire, exposing children to dangerous working conditions, denying them educational opportunities, and robbing them of their childhoods. Our insatiable appetite for cheap goods and fast fashion comes at a hidden human cost: the exploitation of children in global supply chains. From the clothes we wear to the food we eat, the products that fill our shelves are often tainted by the invisible hands of child laborers. The intricate web of global trade and the relentless pursuit of lower production costs have created an environment where child labor can thrive in the shadows. Major corporations, driven by profit maximization and a culture of impunity, often turn a blind eye to the plight of children in their supply chains. Audits are often superficial, and accountability is lacking. Consumers, bombarded with advertising and enticed by low prices, are often unaware of the human cost embedded in the products they purchase. This disconnect between our consumption habits and the realities of global production perpetuates a system that thrives on exploitation. The fight against child labor is a fight for human rights, for dignity, and for a future where every child is free to learn, to play, and to reach their full potential. It is a fight that requires a multi-pronged approach, one that combines robust legislation, effective enforcement, and unwavering advocacy. Governments, businesses, civil society organizations, and individuals all have a role to play in dismantling the structures that allow child labor to persist. Strengthening and enforcing laws that prohibit child labor is paramount. This includes closing legal loopholes, increasing penalties for violators, and ensuring that labor inspectors have the resources and authority to hold businesses accountable. International cooperation is also crucial, as supply chains often span multiple countries. Harmonizing labor standards, sharing best practices, and working together to address the root causes of child labor are essential for creating a level playing field and protecting children from exploitation. Section 5. Corporate accountability, naming, and shaming. Corporations have a moral and ethical responsibility to ensure that their operations, including their supply chains, are free from child labor. While some companies have made strides in improving transparency and implementing codes of conduct, much more needs to be done to hold businesses accountable for their actions. Voluntary initiatives and self-regulation have proven insufficient in addressing the systemic nature of the problem. Naming and shaming companies that engage in or profit from child labor can be an effective tool for driving change. Consumer boycotts, negative media attention, and investor pressure can damage brand reputations and incentivize companies to take concrete steps to address labor abuses in their supply chains. Transparency is key, and companies should be required to publicly disclose their suppliers and subcontractors, allowing for greater scrutiny and accountability. Section 6. The moral imperative, our duty to protect. The fight against child labor is not merely a legal or economic imperative, it is a moral one. Every child deserves a childhood, a chance to learn and grow, to dream and to thrive. Denying children these fundamental rights is a violation of their human dignity and a collective failure of our humanity. We cannot stand idly by while millions of children are robbed of their futures. The moral imperative to protect children from exploitation transcends borders, cultures, and ideologies. It is a universal value enshrined in international law and reflected in the conscience of humankind. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, ratified by every country in the world except the United States, recognizes the right of every child to be protected from economic exploitation and from performing any work that is likely to be hazardous or to interfere with the child's education or to be harmful to the child's health or physical, mental, spiritual, moral, or social development. Section 7. A call to action ending child labor in our time. Ending child labor in our time is an ambitious but achievable goal. It requires a collective effort, a global movement that unites governments, businesses, civil society organizations, and individuals in a shared commitment to justice and equality. We must act with urgency and determination, for the futures of millions of children are at stake. Education is the most powerful weapon in the fight against child labor. By providing children with access to quality education, we empower them to break free from the cycle of poverty and exploitation. Investing in universal primary education, particularly in developing countries, is not only a moral imperative, but also an economic necessity. Educated children are healthier, more productive, and more likely to contribute to the economic and social well-being of their communities and nations. Section 8. The future we choose. A world without child labor. The future is not preordained, it is ours to create. We have a choice to continue down a path of apathy and inaction, where millions of children remain trapped in exploitative working conditions, or to forge a new path, one that leads to a world where every child is free to reach their full potential. The choice is ours, and the time for action is now. Let us choose a future where the scourge of child labor is relegated to the history books, where every child can experience the joys of childhood, the transformative power of education, and the opportunity to pursue their dreams. Let us choose a future where the faces of children are illuminated by hope, not hardship, and where their laughter echoes through classrooms, playgrounds, and homes, not factories, fields, and mines.